Hi everyone. The most indisciplined person to have ever walked on the surface of the earth, according to me, happens to be none other than Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Now, Jesus Christ of Nazareth begins his indiscipline at quite a young age, the age of 12, when his mother and his father are looking for him for 3 days. And when they finally find him in the temple, he asks them, "Didn't you know that I had to be in my father's house? Didn't you know? My goodness. We have been looking for you for 3 days, and that's what you can tell us." Sometimes I wish that my mother was the mother to Jesus Christ of Nazareth, because Jesus Christ would have to choose his words better when addressing my mother. My mother was a tigress. My mother was a lioness. Age has beaten her up. But I digress. It is during his mission when the Son of Man goes overboard in his indiscipline. He defends the prostitutes, allows a prostitute to wash his feet. He associates and dines with the tax collectors. Jesus Christ enters Samaria and speaks to a Samaritan woman. Jesus Christ heals people on Sabbath day. What an indisciplined character he was. It is at this point that we need to define discipline. And according to these two definitions, discipline is nothing but a concoction of rules and regulations that are set in place by those in authority to govern their subjects, those under them, or their juniors. Going against these rules and regulations is what is deemed as being indisciplined. And nobody goes against these rules that had been set by the scribes, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees than Jesus Christ of Nazareth. But Jesus Christ of Nazareth is not the only indisciplined person that we have had in history. Before him, there was Julius Caesar, who crosses the Rubicon and declares war upon Rome. There was Martin Luther, who seeks to reform the Catholic Church by questioning some of its practices, and he becomes the father of the Protestants that we have today. There was Galileo Galilei, a scientist who points out to the church that this earth is not the center of the universe, but the sun is. That it is not the sun that goes round the earth, but rather it is the earth that goes around the sun. And because of that kind of indiscipline, telling the church that kind of information while the church knew otherwise, he is excommunicated from the church. And he has only been forgiven the other day by the late Pope John Paul II and accepted back into the church. There is Rosa Parks, an indisciplined black woman who refuses to stand and give up her seat for a white man in a bus. And this leads to the birth of the civil rights movement in the United States of America, led by other indisciplined men like Martin Luther King Jr. and an even more indisciplined man, Malcolm X. Of course, the indiscipline in this case was going against the Jim Crow segregation laws. Closer home, it is because of the indiscipline of the Mau Mau fighters, among other fighters in this country, that we have the independence of this country today. Someone did know that it is because of indiscipline that Kenya is independent. Do you think, according to the white man, the Mau Mau fighters were disciplined individuals? Of course no. They were labeled as terrorists, criminals, indisciplined individuals. But it is because of that indiscipline that we have the independence of this country today. If our forefathers were disciplined people, believe you me, we would still be under the yoke of colonialism in the year 2021. It is because of the indiscipline of people like Wangari Maathai that we have Uhuru Park, Karura Forest, among other green parks in this country today. If Wangari Maathai was a disciplined woman, believe you me, we wouldn't be having Uhuru Park. So indisciplined was Wangari Maathai that at one point she told parliamentarians that if they want to engage her, they should engage her based on the anatomy between her ears and not the anatomy between her legs. What an indisciplined woman Wangari Maathai was. Long live Wangari Maathai. It is because of the indiscipline of people like Raila Odinga, Kenneth Matiba, Jean Marie Saronei, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Gitobu Imanyara, George Anyona, Koigi Wamwere, among others, that we have the multi-party democracy that we enjoy today. What am I talking about, my dear listeners? It is indiscipline that brings about reforms, changes, transformations, paradigm shifts, better life, new ideas, and even great movements. Indiscipline, not discipline. Make no mistake, my dear listeners. History remembers the indisciplined. At no time has history ever remembered the disciplined. If history ever remembers the disciplined, it's because of coincidence. Perhaps you're a disciplined person and you are the president of a country. Of course, we must remember you. If you are the CEO of a big company or the minister for something somewhere, of course, we must remember you. But we are remembering you because of coincidence, not because of the great things that you have done. It is the indisciplined that we remember in history. But allow me to be fair to discipline, because those who know me at a personal level know me as a fair man. Discipline has been there for a long time before I existed, and it will continue to exist long after I've joined my ancestors. There are two main things that discipline can actually help achieve. Number one, and which happens to be the most important one, is that discipline is the grandmother of status quo. If you want things to remain the way they have been, if you want things to be done the way they have been done in the past, then you as a leader must be disciplined, and the people following you, the people under you, must be disciplined too. The disciplined individuals cannot bring any change in any society, any community, any organization, any business, any country, any company, any school, any government, any church, because they are comfortable with the status quo. They are comfortable with the way things are being run, because change in itself brings a lot of discomfort, and the disciplined individuals are never comfortable with any kind of change. As a matter of fact, the disciplined people have no capacity, have no ability, but most importantly have no goodwill to bring any change in any place that they are in, because they are comfortable with the way things are being run. They are comfortable with the way things have been run in the past. They are not at all interested in seeing any kind of change. Discipline itself is acting within the confines of the rules and regulations. And if you're acting within the rules and regulations, you can only achieve what has been achieved before. You cannot achieve anything beyond, because indiscipline is going beyond the rules and regulations that have been set for you by those in authority. Only when you go beyond those rules and regulations can you bring something new. There is nothing new in discipline. But an example is always good for people to understand some of these things. Now consider the political status of this country. There was one wing of politicians called the Oka politicians. Some of them have bolted out by now. Although this is not a political forum, but if you consider these four Oka politicians, these are disciplined politicians. Now these kind of politicians, believe you me, cannot achieve any change in this country. It is Professor Makau Mutua who keeps reminding us that history is prologue. In other words, if you want to know the future, you study the past. Now study these four Oka politicians and tell me, which reforms have they brought for us in the past? Which change have they advocated for? What can we remember them for? What bill did they bring in parliament that they passed and we can actually remember them long after they have gone? Most of them have lived more than half of their lives by now. Tell me one thing that we can remember them for. Just one. I'm telling you, are going to struggle so much to remember what they have done for us in the past. And if they have not done anything in the past, any change that we can remember, expect nothing in the future. Because these are disciplined politicians and disciplined people are always comfortable with the status quo. These are people who will be told that the contract for supplying Kenya Power or Kenya Airways or any other organization in this country belongs to this family, and they will question nothing about it. These are people who will be told that the contract of constructing a dam somewhere, a road somewhere, belongs to that family, that this contract of mining belongs to that other person, and they will question nothing. Because part of indiscipline is about questioning, and these people cannot question anything. And because they cannot question anything, they cannot bring any reforms in this country. And that brings me to my second point, that discipline is the mother of silence. If you want people to remain silent, if you want people to be seen and not to be heard, if you want people not to give out their opinions, then those individuals must be made to become disciplined, because the disciplined people cannot question anything. The disciplined people are the people of yes sir, yes madam, we shall do it, thank you very much, you are the greatest, your opinion is the best, I don't know where we would be without you. You are a wonderful boss. If all the people that you have in your team are such kind of people, there is very little that you can achieve as a leader. And that is why one Twitter genius observed that the official languages of this country are English, Kiswahili, and silence. And remember that silence is the anchor to slavery. If you want people to remain silent, even when some of their rights are being taken away from them, hata wakati wananyanyaswa hawaongei, even when things are not being done the right way, they can't speak out, then those individuals must be made to become disciplined. And that is exactly why we have a problem in this country, because most Kenyans, a majority of Kenyans, are disciplined individuals. And because they are disciplined, they question nothing. I mean, look at what is happening in some of the churches. I mean, Some members come together and then they propose that they buy the pastor, the reverend, the bishop, the archbishop a vehicle. Maybe even the bishop has got a vehicle, but they want to upgrade it to a bigger machine. And the Christians are there clapping and saying hallelujah because they cannot question some of these things. I mean, most of these pastors that we have in this country, the reverends, the fathers that we have got a payslip in the mainstream churches. And every other woman in this country, every other man in this country is buying their own vehicles. When ni nani tukunulia gari? No, like seriously, when ni nani tukunulia gari? Ati mtumishi wa Bwana, tafadhali nunua gari yako mwenyewe. Go take a loan somewhere and then buy your own vehicle like every other person. Stop burdening the Christians in this country. And even those who don't have a salary in the churches, most of the tithes, the offerings, the first harvest, and many other gifts that are given by the Christians belong to them. They can organize themselves and be in a position to buy their own vehicles. For Christ's sake. In conclusion, indiscipline is the mother and the grandmother of greatness, radical changes, transformations, paradigm shifts, and new ways of thinking. Most Christians follow Jesus Christ without knowing that they are following an indisciplined man. Or rather, they follow Jesus Christ not realizing that they are following him because of his indiscipline. If Jesus Christ was a disciplined man, believe you me, he would not even have gotten the 12 disciples that he got in the first place. Even the other people that I've mentioned in this video would not have brought the transformations, the changes that they were able to bring in this world if they were disciplined people. Did I even mention Nelson Mandela? An indisciplined fellow he was. Thank you so much. I'm out.